going to continue with the chapter 4, the cost of capital. And particularly, we're going to focus on the third learning outcome where we need to compute weighted average cost of capital, WACC, in order to derive the overall cost of capital for a firm. Okay, let's look at what is WACC. It is an average of the individual firm's cost of capital that we are going to multiply with the percentage of the financing from all investors. Okay, as you can still remember, in the first video, we have discussed that for a firm, the capital can be in terms of equity, and also we have preference share as well as the debt. So for each individual component, we have already calculated the individual cost of capital. For example, for equity, common equity, we have KE and KNE. For preference share, we calculate the KP, and for debt, we calculate cost of debt as symbolized by KD. So, for WACC, as it is the overall cost of capital, how to find the WACC? We're going to find the percentage or weight of financing for each component, this one, and multiply by individual cost of capital. These details of the formula on how to compute WACC, we're going to look at in the next slide. Here is the steps involved in order for us to derive the WACC. So looking at the formula, WACC is the sums of weight of financing, this one, weight of financing, VD for debt, multiplied with KD, cost of debt, plus weight of financing for preference share, multiplied with KP, the cost of preference share, plus weight of financing that belongs to equity, multiplied with KE, the cost of common equity. So, looking at the formula, by now you know that in order to find WACC, there are two important things that you need to know. First, the weight of financing for each individual component, as well as the cost of capital for each one of them. You need to know the KD, KP, and KE, as well as the weight of financing. How many percent that the firm decide to finance their project using that particular individual financing type. So berapa persen dia nak finance guna debt, and how many percent nak invest the project using preference shares, as well as how many percent of the capital structure comprises of common equity. Okay, let's look at one illustration. There are four financing types here. We have debt, preferred stock, as well as the common equity. And here, the weight for each individual component is given. 25% is coming from debt, 5% is from preferred stock, and another 70% is financed using common equity. And for each individual component, we already know the cost of capital. So, insert all this information in the formula for WACC, then we can get the figure for weighted average cost of capital for this particular illustration of 15.62%. So you need to know, first one is the weight of financing for each individual component as well as the cost of capital. Barulah you boleh cari WACC. Another illustrations for determinations of WACC. Here we have example 13. Precinct Sdn Bhd has secured a construction project located at Kota Iskandar. At present, optimal capital structure of the company is as follows. So given here is the weight of financing for each capital component. 70% is from common equity, 20% is from PS, preference share, and another 10% is finance using debt. So 100% lah dia punya capital structure. Okay, dah dapat weight of financing for each of these. Then the cost of capital kita tahu KE dia 15.2, KP 15.7 and KD is 4.43%. Jadi senanglah nak calculate WACC. Ambil weight of financing for each individual component times dengan cost of capital individually, then you akan dapat WACC untuk precinct ni sebanyak 14.21%. What if the question does not inform or mention anything about the weight of financing? Just like example 14, the abstract capital structure of Nike for the year 2018 is as follows. So given to you is the amount of funding for each individual component. So tak tahu berapa persen, dia hanya bagi nilai. Preference shares ada 14.5 million, common stock we have 55.7 million, and retained earnings, the common equity we have 9.3 million, plus with the bond or the debt ada dalam 20.5 million. Altogether, the capital structure untuk this company kita ada 100 million. Okay, even though kita tak ada weight of financing, but kita boleh cari. So how to find the weight of financing for each capital component? For example, for KD debt or bond, kita ada 20.5 juta over 100 juta. So we know that the percentage or weight of financing for debt is 20.5%. Do the same for KP and for the KE or KNE, the common equity kita akan plus lah sebab kita nak tahu equity. So equity ada dua, internal KE as well as the external, the KNE. Then bila dah dapat weight of financing for each capital 20.5% untuk KD, 14.5% for KP and 65% for KE and KNE, barulah kita akan darab dengan individual cost of capital here to find the WACC. Masukkan everything in the formula for WACC, then you akan dapat WACC for this Nike is 9.89%. Okay, next we are going to look at maximum capital expenditure. So how much total capital expenditure that can be raised or spent if the company or the firm already use all of its retained earning. Kiranya semua dia punya internal common equity tu semua dah guna dah. Jadi perlu tak dia untuk issue or raise external common equity. Okay, yang internal common equity semua dah habis guna. So bila dia nak fund one particular project, perlu atau tak untuk company tu untuk issue external common equity. So cara untuk tentukan is kita perlu untuk cari dulu the maximum capital expenditure, max capex ni. So this one should be formula number 11 kalau I tak silap for this chapter. Okay, maximum capex equals to retained earnings divided by weight of financing component that belong to equity. Dah dapat cari maximum capex, we are going to compare with the cost of project. Let's say the cost of project yang baru nak take up tu exceed the maximum capex. It means that the company needs to issue additional new share to finance the project. Okay, mula-mula tentukan dulu berapa maximum capital expenditure based on firm's retained earnings divided by weight of financing that belong to equity component. Lepas tu, you kena compare dengan the cost of project. Kalau cost of project lagi besar berbanding maximum capex, maksudnya company kena issue new external common equity. And if this happen, bila ada penambahan new common stock ataupun ada additional external equity, kita dah tak boleh nak kira WACC. We need to change the WACC to WMCC, weighted marginal cost of capital. What is WMCC? Ada beza ke dengan WACC? Okay, so tengok dulu. By definition, WMCC is the additional cost that the firm will have to pay in order to raise an additional dollar of capital, assuming that the capital is raised according to the optimal capital structure proportion. So tadi kita dah buat evaluation. Kita evaluate the cost of the new project is bigger than the maximum capital expenditure. Kiranya dah guna dah semua retained earnings in the firm, tapi masih tak cukup untuk finance the new project. We need to add or issue new external common equity. Okay, when the capital budget increases, more capital is needed. Company may need to issue additional new shares as the external financing other than debt to finance the project. So this one is formula number 12, WMCC, weighted marginal cost of capital. Sama macam lebih kurang WACC, kita akan ambil weight of financing for debt multiplied with KD plus weight of financing for preference share multiplied with KP. And apa yang berbeza kat sini adalah weight of financing yang belong to equity, kita akan times dengan KNE. Sebab remember sekarang return earning tak cukup, we need to issue external common equity. So kat sini you dah tak boleh nak guna KE untuk cari WACC, yang kat sini kita darab WE darab dengan KE. So yeah, this one is WACC. Untuk WMCC, we need to multiply with KNE, the cost of external common equity. So ini yang membezakan WACC dengan WMCC. Kita akan ambil cost of capital for external common equity, KNE. Okay, let's look at one illustration to increase our understanding on WMCC. We have example 15. Currently, Precinct has 6.5 million retained earning. So, sekarang dia punya retained earning ada sebanyak 6.5 million that can be used to finance the profitable project. Company has to fully utilize the retained earnings before any new ordinary shares can be issued. Capital structure represents 70% equity financing. So kalau kita tengok yang menggunakan equity, KE and KNE adalah sebanyak 70% dia punya weight of financing. If the construction project worth 15 million, determine the weighted cost of capital. So this one adalah cost of new project. Projek yang baru tu harga dia sebanyak 15 juta dan retained earnings yang ada 6.5 juta. Okay, so how do we tackle this kind of question? let's look at next slide. First thing first, we need to evaluate whether the cost of new project exceed the maximum maximum capital expenditure, maximum capex. So maximum capex retained earnings ada 6.5 million divide by weight of equity financing. Equity financing for this company is 70%. So 6.5 million bahagi dengan 0.7, kita dapat maximum capital expenditure sebanyak 9.2857 million. Compare dengan tadi the cost of the project tu kita ada sebanyak 15 million. Okay. Jadinya cost of project lagi besar berbanding maximum capex, meaning that the current retained earnings are not sufficient to finance the new project. So the firm needs to issue additional external equity. So bila nak kena issue external equity yang tambahan, dah tak boleh kira WACC, we need to calculate WMCC. Okay, so nak kira WMCC, weight of equity yang kat sini 0.7, nak darab dengan cost of capital KE ke KNE, we need to take the KNE sebab kat sini WMCC. So KNE, yang ni kena KNE 0.16. You tak boleh ambil kat sini KE 15.2 sebab kita kira WMCC. Untuk KP samalah 0.2, 20% darab dengan 15.7 plus KD 10% times with 0.043. Yang important here adalah nak guna KE ataupun KNE. So, kalau kita nak cari WACC, kita pakai KE untuk equity, dan kalau kita nak kira WMCC, kita akan kena pakai KNE. So, nak guna antara dua ni, korang kena compare dulu dia punya maximum capex. Cukup or sufficient or not to finance or to cover the cost of the new project. Okay, provided here also is a very comprehensive illustrations on how to compute individual cost of capital. Start daripada video number 1 lagi, korang kena cari individual cost of capital. Lepas tu dia suruh untuk gabungkan untuk cari WACC ataupun WMCC. Okay, example 16. I will let you to read the questions. Okay, ada Nike Malaysia, dia ceritalah pasal dia ada bond kat sini. Here, this one bond. So this one is dia punya KD lah. Lepas tu current share price of the preferred stock. So this one we know that this is KP. Okay. Then the question continues telling us with regard to the common share. So kita tahulah yang ni mesti berkenaan dengan KE as well as KNE. Okay, internal common stock and external common stock. So dia dah bagi dekat kat sini abstract capital structure. So kenapa dia bagi this one adalah untuk you determine the percentage of financing ataupun weight of financing for each individual component. And last note kat sini dia bagi tahu Nike has 4.94 million retained earnings available. Sekarang retained earnings dia ada sebanyak 4.94 million dan tax rate is 24%. So here I show you the computation macam mana I kira KD, dan please always remember that untuk KD kita kena cari yang after tax. Okay, jangan lupa cari yang after tax. Dan kat sini is how to find the KP, KE dengan KNE. This one semuanya menggunakan dividend growth model DGM. Kita tak guna CAPM tapi kita guna dividend growth model. So tengok betul-betul cara untuk compute all these four individual cost of capital. The second part of the question require us to suggest the appropriate weighted average cost of capital for Nike. So dia suruh kita calculate WACC, but kita tak tahu yang kita kena cari WACC or WMCC. What we need to do first is kita kena buat evaluation based on maximum capex. Okay, retained earnings ada sebanyak 4.94 million. Divide by weight of equity. Okay, weight of equity financing kat sini untuk equity ada 0.557 plus dengan 0.093. I dah cari dia punya weight of financing. Dan I akan dapat maximum capital expenditure sebanyak 7.6 million compare with the cost of new project of 10 million. So, cost of new project is bigger than the maximum capex. Firm tak cukup dia punya retained earnings nak finance the new project. They need to issue additional external equity. So, bila nampak je kat sini keperluan untuk tambah external equity, kita tahulah kita nak kena cari WMCC dan kita akan pakai KNE. So, here untuk E ni, I tak ambil this one. 12.2 ni, I kena ambil 13.40 sebab this one is KNE. Dan dapatlah cari WMCC sebanyak 10.67%. So, hopefully, with this comprehensive illustration, you boleh picture or imagine lah macam mana mula-mula nak kena cari individual cost of capital. Lepas tu kita nak gabungkan semua yang individu tadi tu dalam satu overall cost of capital. Tapi kita tak tahu, kadang-kadang kita kena kira WACC or WMCC. Semuanya bergantung kepada evaluation of maximum capital expenditure. The last two slides here is the discussion on the use of WACC in investment appraisal. When is the appropriate time to use WACC? So here ada 4 situation yang you sangat sesuai lah untuk guna WACC in evaluating a project. So I will let you to baca sendiri this part. And here, how firm or company use WACC in making decision on what project that they need to undertake. So, kalau boleh, company tu dia akan try their best to minimize the WACC, the overall cost of capital. Kalau boleh kita nak as minimum as possible, because when WACC decreases, NPV of the project increases. Okay, kita naklah kan NPV yang lagi tinggi lagi bagus lah. As the value of a project is the total value of its project, the shareholders' wealth is maximized. So kalau boleh NPV kita nak paling tinggi as possible for us to maximize the shareholders' wealth. So cara nak naikkan NPV, kena make sure WACC, the overall cost of capital tu, as minimum as possible. Companies should therefore try to minimize WACC. Okay, dia akan pilih project yang akan bagi dia WACC yang sikit lah. Sebab WACC adalah cost yang company perlu bayar balik kepada fund provider. So kalau boleh nak lagi kecil lagi bagus. Alright, that's all for these subtopics. Kita ada lagi satu topics yang berkaitan dengan cost of capital, which we are going to discuss in the next video. Thank you for watching.